Have a good night. Be safe.
Good night.
There he is.
We'll now reconvene to hear ordinance amendment section 3-13-4A6 of the Henry County Code of Henry County, Georgia regarding consumption of alcoholic beverage in any county park or recreational area by adding a new section B regarding the Cottonfield Golf Course.
And you have summarized it well, Mr. Chairman. This ordinance I've drafted to give you the opportunity, if the board sees fit, to authorize the sale and consumption of beer and wine at Cottonfield's Golf Course. It is otherwise prohibited at county parks, and I think it's fair to classify Cottonfields as a form of a county park. And in order to allow sales and consumption of beer and wine, it's necessary that the board amend that ordinance to allow that to happen, and that's what this ordinance will do.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Yes, sir. I yield the floor to District 3.
Patrick, this is for the county to be able to sell alcohol, is that correct?
It will authorize the sale or consumption. And in order for the county to actually sell it, somebody's going to have to get a permit and all that kind of stuff. But this will authorize it to be done. It doesn't say who does it. You could have a vendor do it, or you could do it yourselves. So, but it will allow for beer and wine to be sold, and it will allow for beer and wine to be
And
consumed.
the county is going to sell it.
I don't know who's ultimately going to do it, but that would be.
I mean, the county could sell it.
The county could sell it.
Okay.
You would have to get the same permits as everybody else.
Could
or
we
you
just
could,
broaden this and sell it at the other parks as well, too?
you could.
Okay.
That's up to you.
I mean, I'm adamantly against any alcoholic beverage at a public park.
Now, this ordinance deals with sale and consumption. And I think that's important because at your other parks where kids are playing ball, you may not want to authorize consumption because there may be people wheeling in coolers full of beer and wine or whatever and just start drinking at parks and create nuisances. Golf course is a little more controlled. People go in through a main, people hitting the golf course funnel in through the check-in process, and you can prohibit coolers and things like that if you so choose. So.
Chairman, I don't have a problem with people bringing their own drinks to the golf course, and I think they're doing that now, have been doing that, but I can't support the county selling alcohol. So
You could achieve that by simply striking the word sale and out of this ordinance, and it would merely authorize the consumption of, which would allow, at that point, people could bring coolers in and bring their own if they wanted. But the sale of it would still be prohibited.
I yield the floor to District 1.
Safe to say that, I guess, that all the golf courses in Henry County, they do sell beer at those golf courses, correct?
I presume so. I retired. My illustrious golf career has ended, and I presume. I think most every golf course I've ever been at that somebody's been selling beer. Yeah.
County Manager, do you have any idea of what type of revenue we may raise selling alcohol at the golf course, and will it be enough to to pretty much pay for some of the things that we need, such as the golf carts and
well, it would be a contributing
facilities.
revenue. Consumption and sale of beer on the golf course just gives me another tool to try to finance some of these other things. I would expect that the majority of the beer sales will be related to the pavilion, because we're absolutely going to do more with the pavilion than has been done, period. The number of beers sold out on the golf course, and by the way, I've done my survey here. All the courses here do allow alcohol to be served. So if there's a revenue, it could be 5, it could be 25,000, but I just don't want to not have every tool available to us. Whether we have a function where we concession it out, we've got a couple of weddings that are coming up, they've asked that question, or whether it's our revenues when we are selling the product on board.
And I agree with you, because I mean, most of our facilities, we don't get a great return on investment. So I think this, I think the sale of alcohol will bring us, enough revenue to pay for certain things and to maintain the golf course the way we need to maintain it.
All right, did you want to be recognized? Anybody else want to be recognized? The floor is open if anybody wants to move in a direction.
So move.
We have a motion to amend the ordinance.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. So moved. Ordinance amending section 3-13-413 of the Henry County Code regarding the use of tobacco and/or smoking products in any county park or recreational area by adding a new section regarding the Cottonfield Golf Course.
And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this accomplishes much the same thing, but it deals with tobacco products as opposed to alcoholic beverages. The other difference is it doesn't authorize the sale, it only authorizes the use of them. And that was drafted again after consulting with the county manager. Again, I don't play golf anymore, but when I did, it seemed that everybody smoked cigars and cigarettes when they played golf, even if they didn't otherwise smoke. And we just gave this as an option to you to bring cotton fields in line with what most other golf courses do. This does not authorize the sale. This only authorizes the use of. If you want to authorize the sale, we could do that. I quite frankly don't know what the regulations would be to sell tobacco. I didn't even consider that. Yeah.
And that's,
But I didn't include the sale of them. I just didn't think that's something I don't see very often, is selling them out of clubhouses.
As well authorize the sale of cigars at least.
And we could accomplish that by modifying the revised ordinance to authorize the sale and use of tobacco products, and that's just, I could insert those two words in at your direction.
Was that, I yield for District 4.
I would support that change, Commissioner Holmes.
Matter of fact, I'll make a motion for it.
We have a motion for District 5.
And that's to approve the ordinance amended to include sales.
That's amended to include sales. You second it? We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Approval of the minutes for June the 21st, 2016 is published.
Mr. Chairman,
Somebody-
there were those two more we added to the agenda. Did we add them here or under?
Add-ons.
They're under my comments? Okay.
You remember where I told you I put them?
Apparently under my comments. I missed it.
21. You want to hear them now? Does anybody object hearing them now since you're up there?
Go ahead and take care of this. I'll wait.
Okay. No, I put them in 21. I announced that amendment, if y'all remember. Okay. Okay, just checking approval of minutes. Anybody move that we approve the June the 21st, 2016 meeting as published? Have a motion, District 4. Second, District 3. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. So approved. Chairman has no comments. I think I started it that way. I'm going to start this end. District 4, you have any comments?
I don't have any comments.
District 1. Chair has no comments. District 3.
No comments,
District
Chairman.
5, you have any comments? County Manager, you're going to present some new food for thought on 345 Phillips Drive.
yes, sir. Board, I have actually two issues. We're going to make a presentation on the Phillips Drive building, and we're going to talk about the Henry First organization. Board, as you recall, over a year ago, you had to abandon the Phillips Drive building for mold and mildew. In that process, Mr. Purvis and his crew discovered that behind the walls there were some other issues that were structural. Works out to be about 150 feet of the back wall, what I would call the back wall, as you walk into the building. It is the front of the building. At that time, we also had a problem that we're recognizing that the two end walls that are surrounding either side of the east and west side of the building, east and west? the east and west side of the building. One of them had been displaced by some rain events, and it actually caused the removal and displacement of air conditioning unit, pushed it off with such force that we knocked that out. When we started taking photographs and having engineers and smart people come in and take a look at the project, we recognized that this has grown in scope, and we knew we had all kinds of problems. We started looking up in the ceiling, getting to understand some of the engineering changes that had occurred in there. We looked on the floor, and we've done several other things. We excavated to the outside. And the reveal of this thing is that the wall broke. And it has to do with the plasticity of the clays materials that's on the other side of the wall. As it expands and contracts, it pushes this wall in, the same way it did the two end walls. We just went out last week, and you're about to see the presentation on it, and it has gotten worse since we were there just a matter of weeks ago. The board has given us some directions where they wanted to know what a repair or replacement cost would be, and this building is 15,000 square feet. When we started talking to the professionals, we got an engineered study about what this repair would be or rehabilitation would be, and we had some cost analysis that was done by an engineering and design. The problem of it is that I did not have a process for the board to look at the economic decision of per square foot by unit for office space for old or new or the rehab. So we reached out to an architect and had them do an independent study based off of the engineering report and what they saw on site with us. And what you're going to see tonight is some of the things that we've discovered in it and what this rehabilitation is. The handout I just gave you was the consultant's report. And you see the two pieces that are in there. We have a rehab project for a total of 30,000 square feet at the current location, and that comes out to be up $5.8 million thereabouts. We need to add $1 million to that for two other projects which we would have done at either one of these alternatives, either a rehab or a new. That's going to be for standby generation and upgrading our fiber hub in the Windy Hill complex. This building houses our hub, and how many times have you heard IT's Skip Floyd come in and say this is all wickedness about to fall down and break? Well, this puts $750,000 there to put a new hub that addresses everybody in Windy Hill complex. We've got two alternatives before you. We're not asking you to make a decision tonight. We just want to show you and give the audience an opportunity to see the challenge that we've got. We're going to put this out for a bid that's in compliance with our purchasing and procurement requirements, and we're going to bring it back to you what we find. You've got two alternatives here, and essentially we can rehab it, get 30,000 square feet, and the reason we added to that was the architect recommended that that would lower your unit cost. Or we can take the same 30,000 feet, go someplace else, and build it for about 8.5. The 7.5 is their number, but again, adding another $1 million or thereabouts for the standby generation and the IT. So with that, I'm going to crank it up, and Mr. Purvis and I are going to take you through this thing with pointers and all, I think.
Gentlemen, the building was originally built back in 1975, and the first renovation occurred in 1984 when it was the Henry County Administration Building. Somewhere in 1992, 1993, they were having a Board of Commissioners meeting in the boardroom, and the floor joist system failed, and they had to get an engineer to come in, and they fabricated some plates that shored up the floor system. In 2005, when the police department was there, that's when the east side retaining wall fell due to the excessive rain. We got like 5 inches of rain in a short period of time, and there's no drainage at that time on that side of the building, and the saturated ground caused the wall to fail. And then in 2009, that's when elections moved in. Well, before they moved in, they renovated the building, and they attempted to repair the wall. They dug down to the footing and did some waterproofing and did some things inside to help shore up the wall, but it has not been a success. So this is just basically
You're on the outside right now, and yeah, we can thank some other staff for doing the aerials for us. This is the wall that's collapsed, and if you went back, you'll notice that there was some dirt along the way. This is the back side of it, but there was some dirt on the front side where we had excavated the corners so the engineers could take a look at what was there and what went down to the bottom of the footer on it. This is the side that blew out and displaced the air-conditioned HVAC unit that's on the west side. Am I saying
This
that
is
right?
east side.
East side, and this wall's been repaired. You're gonna see something on the other side in just a minute that shows you that this part of the wall and this part of the wall have bellied out towards the same theme that's occurred inside the building. It has bellied out the full 150 feet. Take a shot.
And this is just basically showing the front of the building here. This is part of the 150 foot that was, they attempted to do the waterproofing, but they weren't able, I guess, to pack the soil back in the correct way. So we've got a lot of settlement, and it's causing that water to get behind the waterproofing that they did put down. It's getting behind it, between it and the wall, getting into the basement.
Commissioners, this brick here is strictly aesthetic fascia. There's nothing about this that's really structural. What you're going to see in just a second is this is an angle iron that's supporting that red brick. And what you'll see from the top, what Mr. Purvis discovered is that the water was coming in through the gutter system and going behind the walls between this fascia board and the block that's down below, a non-structural block. It's not poured, doesn't have rebar in it. It's just hollow concrete blocks, CMUs. Take that one.
Okay, this is the wall on the west side of the building that is on the verge of failing. It is, like Mr. Bonner said earlier, the crack has gotten worse, and we've actually got it roped off now as safety precaution to keep anybody out from being around it. Here's just another angle. This is running north to south here.
Look at the belly part of it, and this crack right here, probably in the last 3 or 4 weeks, has gotten substantially worse to the degree that Mr. Purvis went out and we've cordoned it off so no one can walk behind it. We're concerned about that wall failing. But they are all bellied out right here. It shows, I'm going to hold that one for a second. You've seen the belly, the cracks are just getting worse. This is what I lovingly call Mr. Purvis's Roman candle, and I'll let him explain that another time. But this is where your fiber actually comes into the building. These cables, where am I? Right here. There's a series of them that go into the building aerially. And we're concerned, we're putting this underground, we're putting new fiber through the whole Windy Hill complex and bringing it underground back into the building. And I think Skip's here to talk about what's inside. Yeah, there he is. So we'll put a hole right there. Yes, you've heard Mr. Floyd talk about how ratty our system is there. That's why we're trying to fix this all at one time too.
The problem right now is the fiber that exists in this building is 17 years old. This is where the network started for the county and branched out. We have one pair of multi-mode fiber running from here now back to that building, which controls the entire complex. Everything is run from there. 17 years old, the wrong type of fiber. It's very expensive to move it. It's almost, it's more cost effective to replace it. It needs to be replaced anyway. To move it, it's I think 130,000 to replace it. 230 to 270, I don't remember. But it's ancient, it's old, it needs to be replaced. If the building gets demolished, we're gonna have to move it because it controls everything over there. The jail annex, animal control, everything is running off of that one single line of fiber right now. So it's, it needs to be replaced regardless of whether we tear the building down or we put up a new one. It needs to be done.
Carry on. Thank you. Yes, sir. Again, this is how it's aerially coming in. That's the tables and switches. And as Mr. Floyd said, keep in mind, this is our entire network for the Windy Hill complexes. This is where Mr. Purvis is seeing clearly damaging county property.
All right, this is just some footage of the present condition of the gutters. As you can see, they are completely deteriorated, and the gutter sits on top of the exterior wall. So what's happening is the water is actually running down
Stop right there.
behind the wall and actually making it to the basement in some areas. As you can see, the roof too, we have some issues with a blowing rain, how it's able to get up underneath the roof membrane.
It doesn't appear there was any adhesive applied right where he's lifting his fingers up. It's just styrofoam there. So that might have been one of the issues of blowing rains, letting it get inside and on both sides of the brick fascia and the block inside.
Just more evidence of that gutter issue and roof issue. Now we're down in the basement. This is just going to more or less show the lateral crack in the wall that extends throughout the whole north wall. We've removed all the sheetrock just to expose the wall completely so we can see exactly what we're dealing with, and this is what we come up with.
Commissioner, that's one of the holes we've knocked in. You'll see several of them that show that the block was not poured. There's no rebar in it. That's the crack you're looking at, that in the gray matter you see on it is where they tried to waterproof and effect a repair sometime in the past. But all the block, you tap on it, and the architect, he didn't find any that was poured, and we think that would have been a far better structural component for lateral movements had that been poured and rebarred. That is the kind of construction that you described that would be in the far wall if we go out the front side of this building and duplicate this 15,000 square feet on the other side of that wall there.
If I'm not mistaken, the reason to have that interior-exterior wall right there with the studs is the fact that I think originally they had the sheetrock on the block. Is that not correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, so when the structural damage occurred and it was bowing out, you can't really tell it here, but they went in and took some significant angle iron, and they went to the bottom, and then they went to the top.
That's it right here.
And they welded it. Now, a lot of that is separated. Okay,
Right.
so the day that I went over there, just what I saw, as you well remember, and I caught hell about this, I shut the building down immediately and moved the people out for two reasons. One was the wall was leaning like this, as you recall. And the second thing was, you can't tell it here, but that whole area looked like somebody had sprayed it with black paint. It had all these cabinets, it had all these documents, it had all the furniture down there, and it was black, and it was black mold. So anyway, I'm glad you're showing these pictures, because it kind of vindicates me that I moved the people out there quickly to a safe environment, and I really thought that the building was probably going to fall within 2 or 3 days.
We still have some reservations about it.
I'm saying,
but we've had the
it's-
smart people look at it. The outside wall, we're pretty confident it's going to go.
The reason they put the metal studs in there is the fact that that's the only way you could get a straight wall is to bring it out and put the studs in there.
Right.
But what we're proposing, one, we're going to need some capital dollars that wasn't in the current year's budget. If we rehab it, it's about 5.8 plus $1 million. That puts it around 6.8. The same thing on the replacement, new for 30,000 square feet. The architectural estimate is going to be about 7.5 in the paper, and then another $1 million thereabouts for standby generation and the fiber replacement for the Windy Hill area. Commissioners, we want to go ahead and go out to bid for this. We're not asking for anything from you tonight, just letting you know that tomorrow we got to adopt some millage rates. We've got to look at our capital issues that are going on. We have no capital dollars in it. We removed 5.5 early on, and now we're going to need about 10 point something to do the 5.5 that was planned, and maybe 7 or so here to affect the repairs of this building here, or to rebuild new. We're going to put it out as an RFP. We've got some stipulations on it that we'd like to put it in at phase. Mr. Gray has made some good recommendations that would allow us to spec a few things that we think are important. And I think I've told all of you, the best roof I've ever seen in commercial construction is now in the DFAX building. That penetration, the things that were handled up there, we'd like to continue on that relationship with that roofing and that contractor. Certainly the Train air conditioning unit. So that's one of the phase steps that will come up.
What is the future use for Windy Hill?
The Phillips Drive?
Yeah.
At this point, we're wide open. We know that the persons that left was the supervisor election, Ms. Lunsford. We know that we've got a significant deficit in office space right now. That's why we're proposing going on. This 60,000 wouldn't address it. We're not sure the 100,000 would. But this gives me something sooner that gets us started. As we get this process underway, then we'll start sorting who's best going to fit there. Obviously, the supervisor election board, they want to go back there sooner. There have been conversation with the probate judge. She would love to be a part of that, and she may have some money to contribute. But we're going to come back as we start piecing this together so that we know when we get to the end who's going to be moving in and what that building could be set up for in the building phase to accommodate somebody, one department moving straight in and another. We'll have some recommendations for you, but I'm premature right now to start guessing who's going to be there.
$7.5 million, I mean, we can build a new building for a lot less than that, can't we?
That 7.5 is your new construction of 30,000 square feet elsewhere. Commissioner Holmes, what I was trying to get to is the economic issue. You can rebuild at 5.8 right there and you get your building back and you're ready to go, and it's a 30-year issue. I don't want anything that's not at least 30-year issue for the board, for any kind of $1 million project. The bottom number, the 7.5, would be to duplicate 30,000 square feet of office space at another location. So the economic determination for the board now is, do we repair and get the 30,000 square feet there, or go new and put the 8.5 in it and get the new someplace else? We've got a lot of advantages that are right there. The fiber hub's there. Certainly we've got parking, and we can move the building forward so we don't displace a lot. And I think it's going to meet, and we've got a long way to go. Engineering-wise and architectural-wise, we've got a lot of footwork to go. But we want to put it out the bid and bring it back to you.
What are we putting out to bid? Are we doing, does the board need to make a decision on whether we're gonna do the rehab or the nuke? And you're gonna do design build, you're gonna do, what kind of RFP we gonna put out?
The phase process we're looking at lends itself to a design build type, but we can spec it and just go to a straight bid. I'm going to let our procurement department tell us the best way to do this. We'll give them the scope. We'll tell them how we think we want to do it. We'll tell them the specs that we want. But the important part is get an objective and a compliant purchase or procurement process on this. So I'm not willing to commit either way just yet. It very well may be something the board want to decide on, depending on the alternatives we come back with you in a bid, spec, or RFP.
I'm just trying to see how you would do an RFP. You need to either do an RFP for the rehab. You gonna do it for both, for the rehab and new?
Request for proposals or a straight bid. Right now, we're out as a straight bid, but we've got 5 alternatives how to work it. But we don't know if that's the best options. We learned a lot just by having the architect on board. I'm not prepared to tell you which way we're going to go yet. That's something we're going to have internally, and when we put it out, we'll let you know. And if it doesn't meet y'all's test, then we'll change it. But we are looking just to give you some examples of what the challenges are going to be and the alternatives to get it done. I was told that this is a priority, and when we looked at the square foot deficit we've got, we need to do something, and we need to do it now.
Sure. Okay. I'm just not understanding how we're going to get what are you bringing us back? Because I've got an estimate for a rehab, and I've got an estimate for a new building. And exactly what are you bringing us back? Because again, the only thing to get fine point dollars, you would need architectural plans, and then you would need a contractor to bid out the architectural plans. But it's a lot of money to spend to just speculate on redoing the rehab or doing the new building.
Yes,
I mean, we've got the budget here. I mean, I'm leaning toward rehabbing that building for 5.8. I don't know where the rest of the board's at as far as what they'd like to see, but I don't know how you would bring us back prices on something that I don't understand.
Well, this is our first blush at it too. I wanted to have an economic analysis before y'all first thing. So we now got some comparison that y'all can decide unit price. We need to go back now and say, okay, if the board does elect one or the other tonight, then the rehab or the straight bid, that will further order our steps on which one would come back to you. And because it's gotten to the point where we're critical, anything happens to any one of our other facilities, we're going to be playing a shell game. We have lucked out. We have truly dodged a bullet in space analysis since before I got here. And it's a credit to some smart people how we got people housed at where they are. But to get 30,000 square foot on the soonest, I have to concur. My initial blush was knock this thing down and let's start over. But the architect opened my eyes to a few things, which is what they're supposed to do. That's why we hire them. And I think that because of moving the building forward, we've got ample room still in front of that construction between there and the right-of-way. We can add parking there, we can add parking on the sides, and we have quite a bit of parking in back. I think it represents probably less challenges, but rehab is always more expensive, which is why we added to it.
Have you explained to the other board members and any questions of what the architect recommended? It was a little different. I met with him, and it was a pretty good idea, really, what he had. And there's other issues with the building when we start talking about the building beyond just the structural issues. There's also some code issues. It's got single pane windows. Can't do that anymore. It does not have an elevator in it. We got to go back and put an elevator in it. So, I mean, bringing this up to code, the term lipstick on a pig comes to mind on this one. But the architect had an idea of going in front of the building, going down in front of the retaining wall, actually taking that retaining wall out, putting the elevator in that front area. Really good idea. I didn't see that coming, so I'm leaning toward the rehab, but I'm kind of curious what exactly you're going to bring us back, because we've got the preliminary numbers here. I
The
don't
board
know.
pulls the trigger on either one, that will guide our steps which way we go when we come back to you.
Okay.
If you want to do a rehab, or if you want to go new. New is a whole different process. We're
Yeah,
going to have to do
new's
the
a-
site, we're going to have to do some other things. But, and listen, these numbers are estimates, but they are engineered estimates. They are architectural studies based off of what the occurrence and expenditures are in Henry County. So they're close now.
So where are you looking at taking funds from? Next year's budget, or
No, right straight out of general fund balance.
so we're looking at going below the 25%?
No, sir.
Okay, I remember what you're talking about. Okay. But I thought we were looking at doing multiple capital upgrades. So we're going to take all that money and put it into this building?
No, sir.
We have no idea.
This is the 5.5 million that was originally in the budget proposal that was taken away was separate, above and beyond this. This is an additional $5 to $8 million, depending on the direction the board goes, of fund balance construction.
Yeah, I thought we only had about 6 or 7 unassigned that we could use.
No, sir,
For
you
capital.
have quite a bit more than that, and I think we're going to report to you tomorrow that you may be pleasantly surprised of where we're at in fund balance predicted for end of 15. But I have no intentions of coming to the board and going beneath the 25% threshold that y'all have established.
Yeah, my only issue with this is my first time seeing it, and I'm looking at 7.5 on the sheet. I know you said it could go either way, but we're not clear what the future use of the building is going to be. So I'm really not comfortable with putting anything out for bid until I understand more information.
Well, the good news about this type of construction, it's office space. So the exterior is getting the shell, one thing, getting it in the ground and get it started. The build out is going to be as we assign who's going back in there. To get it off the ground and say, are we putting the cart before the horse? No, sir, I think it's best we go ahead and get a plan that starts the construction aspect, because the repair and the new construction of the shell is going to have to happen first. And I believe that buys us the time to look who's going to be inside and then configure the build out from the interior spaces, build it that way. And I certainly respect your thought on it, but I'm trying to do these things to get this square footage online as soon as it's possible. And the office space is so generic, he just does it as a square foot calculation. We put up walls. Essentially, we're building a box, and we'll put up the walls inside that partition the building for the uses we put in there. But it gives us plenty of time to start mapping that out for you.
If I had my choice for this revenue, I would rather put it into our roads, to be honest with you.
Into your what?
Roads, road repair, surfacing. That's where I think we need it.
I can't disagree with that either, but I've got one compelling argument, is I've run out of space. We've got people housed in buildings they shouldn't be in. They're not compliant by current building codes. I've got a number of issues in terms of overcrowding. And it just goes on and on and on. But Commissioner Holmes, you're only touching the surface of that. You know, you had a pavement evaluation some years ago that indicated we're 17 years behind. And you look at the beating our roads are taking, you're absolutely right. You look at the space that has been deferred, these capital investments that all governments have deferred has put us at a point now we're playing catch-up ball. I've got to spread it out a little bit. I certainly have to address the space needs the county is going to need. You understand that the judges, when the millage is adopted, they've got $121,000 to do a space analysis for theirs. New courthouses, new judicial type structures. So we're going to have to balance this going through time. And I know some people hate me to say this, but we're probably going to have to look at some bonding issues somewhere down the road. But right now, I can get 30,000 square foot on the ground, and I'm going to guess this is Hutch and Mine's best guess, in about a year's time. And it'll be ready to be moved into. It will be either one of these investments are at least 30 years old. I don't want to come back to y'all with anything under 30 years, particularly this kind of money, but we prefer long-term work. But this is going to be a hardened building. It's going to be on standby generation, and it will serve you for at least 30 years, and it should serve you very well. So, board, if you have a preference between the two, that's the one we're focused on. If we learn something that needs to come back before we put it out, tonight I guess we'll just ask you, one, be aware that I'm going to be coming back and talking to you about utilization of fund balance for some capital work, and it's going to be somewhere around 6.8 or thereabouts, including the standby generation and the fiber work that's there, or 8.5. My recommendation is we look at the rehab project right now. If we learn something on the way that it puts us in another direction, bringing the professionals on and getting a closer look, then we'll come back to you. But other than that, my recommendation is we go to the rehab, and I know that's counter to what I told each one of y'all less than 3 months ago. But I think this gets us the square footest the soonest for the least amount of money and looks through time, at least 30 years. And that's a well thought out exercise we've done so far, but it's a need we need, and it's only a drop. We've got a long ways to go to address the capital needs. Am I leaving anything out? Rod?
Anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
I didn't hear rehab or new construction.
I don't think you're going to,
We're just looking at it, not spending money.
I know, but I'd like to look at both of them. Is that what we're going to do?
If the board gives me any direction to narrow it down tonight, I'm going to pursue that one first, and see what we learn from it. I think the soonest part for me as a recommendation is the most important one. I could use 90,000 square feet tomorrow. I'm only going to get 30,000 square feet with either one of these alternatives. The rehab, in my mind, I believe is going to be quicker because I don't have any site work that has to be done there other than the paving. The new construction, I got to do site plans, a different kind of permitting process, and depending on the locations, that permitting process could be several months. Then I still got the funding issue. So I'll stand by my rehab recommendation, ask the board, direct us to go in that direction.
Well, once we look at the rehab, we don't like that.
Then we go Plan B.
That's what I'm saying. Go to
Yes.
Plan B. Thank you. County Attorney, you back up. We have a resolution authorizing execution of the agreement to acquire 162,746.09 square feet of land and 53,276.06 square feet of permanent easement in land lot 64, the 7th District, Henry County, Georgia, and this is known as Campground Road Partial 62.
Mr. Chairman, I've left all the issues I promised y'all I would bring back to you. So this has to do with the Henry First and the monies that are tied up in Henry First. We have a handout that was sent out some time back, but this describes all the transactions that have occurred with Henry First. And where the dilemma is the board has taken no action, and I've got $30-some thousand tied up in there that we need to be able to account for and reimburse the county for what's already been expended, and to allow for a mechanism if the board elects to keep the corporation open, it'll be the vehicle that we take deposits in for donations for supporting the activities that Henry First was set up for. I know that the board has discussed this. We didn't take any actions on it, but I think no actions probably has hurt us as much as anything. We want to go ahead and disperse the money for reimbursement back to the general fund. And if we can get that taken care of, then the board can address the policy whether you want to keep the corporation active or not. But my first part is let's try to get the money out. If you need to appoint some people to do that, or y'all willing to sit as that board, that would allow us to do these transfers.
I'm okay with keeping it open. I mean, it's been presented as a way for politicians to steal money, but when you look at what it does, I mean, Special Olympics, Sunshine League, Veterans Museum renovation, is that renovation? I don't know. These things are good for the county. I don't know if these people have never been to Special Olympics and seen these wonderful ladies and gentlemen, but they should go.
But
It's
Commissioner, I
worth it.
think that in
So-
the interest of all things, I'm interested in getting the transfer done. The policy issue is that y'all have to sit and direct the money to be allocated. And then you can decide the policy of whether you want to keep Henry First open as a nonprofit organization. The first move is for y'all to be able to empower yourself and direct where that money to be able to go. Then I will affect those transactions and get those done. Tonight, if you want to go ahead and disband the corporation, you can. If you want to go on. But if you're going to go on, I think you have to appoint some officers to carry out the business and look at the philanthropic requests that are going to be coming in, whether it's this board or someone else. It's secondary to my initial issue. My primary issue is to get this money so we can make the reimbursements.
Linda, do you know if there are any issues with transferring money out of a nonprofit into our general fund?
Well, this is a reimbursement for expenditures that were donated and they offset the cost. I do not know and I do not believe there are any, because the board would be the one, this board, sitting as that board, would be one to authorize the transactions. And that transaction, y'all are the only people who can do it at this point in time. So the legal implication or the tax implications are you're transferring funds to pay for a reimbursement from one nonprofit to a public nonprofit. So I believe they're on parity.
Put this on the,
Yes, sir, I can. I don't know if we're going to be able to read it.
they get it.
You got it from there.
I just
You need a
want the
pointer?
citizens to have an opportunity, just opportunity to look at what this does and what this is.
Maybe we just zoom in on one part of it and I'll scroll it up. That's it? All right. They're doing it someplace else?
How much is owed to the county at this moment?
Sir?
How much money has come out of general funding for the total?
Each one of the projects, as I understand it, now, I couldn't tell you the total over the years because the projects were put into the Parks and Recreations for various one of these projects. This money was set in place, taking donations to offset some of that cost. And one of the issues that we've got now is that if we earmark the funds, it will invert. If I have a project that costs $100,000 and I have $10,000 in Henry First, I'm gonna spend that $100,000 first, so I won't have these run-ons where I've got cash left in. That'll be the first money I spend. But a number of the projects, Chairman, you mentioned in an email, and you're exactly right. A lot of the projects would have exceeded that. The donations were never intended to try to fund the whole thing, like recreation or the therapeutic tennis. You recall the email that Harlan did for us to describe that we're going to be the premier wheelchair tennis event in the United States. That's where it's going. And we're just a year or so out from this. We've got some folks who are prepared to make some significant donations. If they want to be that level of donations, I'd like to have a vehicle to put it into. Harlan pointed out something that all us grant writers are aware of. Very often, the grants that you're applying for require a 501(c) as an intermediary and not straight to a public. Second sheet?
Yeah, that shows how much it has come out of general funding.
And the balances, Chairman, you're correct.
It says due to, so that means due to general funding means it needs to be put back.
Due to general fund, that $17,000 is the reimbursement we're looking at, and that'll leave a balance in the general fund. I think that's incorrect too. I think it'll leave a balance of $19,502 is what that was intended to say. What is due right now for reimbursement, as I understand it, is $17,526.65. this line. When you net that out, then it looks to be that the balance remaining there would be the 19,502.04. Angie, is that right?
Say yes.
You formatted it for me, so that's correct? Yes. All right.
I'm paying attention. I know what the answer should have been. Okay.
So
I yield
first
the floor
part is
anybody
to-
wants to talk.
I think this is a great opportunity for folks to be able to donate money to a charitable organization and get a tax write-off. I do say that if we're gonna do this, when we take a donation, it ought to be earmarked for whatever organization it is, and it ought to be specified that. I don't like us taking donations and it's just open to do whatever you want to do. But I think if we receive donations from an individual, we ought to ask them to earmark it for whatever one of these organizations. And now, as far as cleaning this up tonight, if Patrick says we can do this, I'll make a motion that we transfer the 17,526.65 back into the general fund. If we're legally, we can do that
For reimbursement.
for reimbursement.
My recommendation would be you take it, you do two steps. I think this thing that's left out there that needs to be taken care of is you need to appoint officers to Henry First Inc. You need a president, vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. And once you do that, you can then authorize, as the board of directors, authorize the president and the vice president, secretary, and treasurer to effect those transfers. So
Have a copy of the proposal that you had.
I have it on this, and I've got 9% of my battery left, and I think I can, here we go.
While you're looking it up, the comment I will make that, as I recall, many years ago, maybe in 07, 08, 09, the reason that this Inc. was created was for, as I recall, it was for a single entity only, and that was to allow people to give tax deductible contributions to Nash Farm. And I think it was the Restoration of Nash Farm, or Friends of Nash Farm or something. Okay, now, having said that, over the many years, everybody has tapped in without the board approval, and it has ended up the way it is. And if I had an Inc. Affiliated with something like this, I would do it, because if I would know that if I didn't generate enough money, y'all are covered out of general funding. And that's what they've been doing. So that's my point.
Well, I've heard you say that, and I see the reason. The checks and balances would be, board, don't do that. You know, don't overexpend what the donation would be. Let the program be funded in the general fund and allow the philanthropic board to decide where you want to spend it and to the level you want to spend it. To address Commissioner Barham's point about earmarking, you know, that'd be fine, but that'll be the first dollars we would spend, so I don't have these 50 cent or a few thousand or a few $100s left in that are encumbered that we couldn't use for other purposes. And this week was a good example. At the end of last week, we got a request from a very deserving board that's doing the walk this weekend. And they were looking for some board support for that. We had no vehicle to do it. If we had excess funds in there and this board sitting as the philanthropic guidepost, if y'all decided you wanted to earmark some money for that project, you could. Right now, we have no vehicle. I can't get to $30-some thousand that was earmarked by the donations for us to pursue projects within Henry County. And you've seen all the transactions that have occurred, but I think the second step is, one, I want to get the money out, and what y'all do policy-wise. I just want a vehicle to be able to pay our bills and not keep taking it out of the general fund recreation department.
Well, I'm going to make this statement too, and this is why I'm out.
Yes, sir.
And you know why I'm out. The board knows why I'm out.
Yes, sir.
Okay, in the beginning, I was not going to participate in Henry First. because of the makeup. And my attitude is I wouldn't want to have me being a part of something else. Incorporation is something I couldn't do as a sitting commissioner. Now, having said that, I sent an email out, and these people know this. I sent an email out and I said, look, we need to bite the bullet. And I said I would be a part of it. Is go ahead and assign board members to the Inc., like the rule says.
Yes, sir.
Dispersed all this money, and then I'm getting out. So if you want to dissolve it, good. If you don't, let it stand. I was just trying to find a quick fix. One is get the money to the people that need it or want it, and I was willing to do that. Also is to refund the $18,000 back to the general funding, and that would make everything status quo, and then we could move on. So there's no interest. So now
You were real clear to make sure I paid the bills.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I have no interest in it now. I gave it my best shot. I gave a resolution, and probably for personal reasons, because I brought it up, they had no interest in it. So it is what it is.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add, I don't know why anyone created Henry First Inc. I wasn't involved in that. The official purpose for Henry First Inc. is to receive private donations and then to disperse those to county departments in furtherance of those governmental functions. So it should be a one-way flow of money. It should be money coming in from the private sector into Henry First, and then from Henry First to county departments to operate their programs, such as the rec department. And I put that up here. This is the official statement that was provided to the Internal Revenue Service to give Henry First its 501c3 tax basis. I don't know how it's been operated. I haven't been involved in operating it. What I would recommend the board do right now that I think, Mr. Chairman, would achieve your goals is you simply appoint these officers, appoint a president, vice president, appoint a secretary, appoint a treasurer, and turn it over to them and let them run it, because that's what they're tasked to do. Yeah.
Well, you got to put it in a motion to do.
We got to amend the agenda first.
You got to amend the agenda.
Amend the agenda, and this is the resolution, and just for reference, it was Exhibit 24 from the June 21st meeting. It's going to take it a minute, it'll recycle. But you would be sitting.
Today, not a motor speedway.
But you would be filling these slots right here.
That checkered pattern that you had on the scope there.
Well, there's 4 people. You appoint a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. That's what needs to happen.
You have to address the board of directors first, and then
No, the board of directors is set. It's automatic. This board is the board of directors.
Okay.
If you want to resign, you can resign, and it would be the remaining 4.
I resign.
Okay. So the remaining 4
So
would
now
now be
the
the board of
remaining
directors.
4, they have to decide the president, the vice president, secretary, and treasurer.
And the recommendation we made before was to sort of track those officers with your county management and make Mr. Bonner the president, have Ms. Matthews as the vice president, have Stephanie as a secretary, and Fred Olet as the treasurer. That sort of matches the functions they perform at the county. And their roles, their duties and responsibilities are defined by the bylaws. So that would be my recommendation. If you want to appoint somebody else, it's yours. You can appoint whomever you wish to appoint.
Let me ask you this now. You just indicated that the board members up here were board of directors.
That's correct.
And then it says the board of directors has determined that it is in the best interest of Henry First, and the board of commissioners has determined it is in the best interest of the county to fill the offices of the president.
When I drafted this,
That has to be.
When I drafted this, I drafted it with the intention of y'all voting in both your capacities. I didn't draft that for tonight's meeting. This came up at the last minute. We can amend that and take the board of commissioners
That's not
stuff
what
out.
I'm saying. Right now, you're gonna have 4 members of the board as a board of directors. So you're saying within the board of directors, they can appoint Lyndon as being the president. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah, it's just the board of directors of the corporation acting.
I got you.
That's all it is.
You know we're low battery.
I know.
As soon as Commissioner Holmes gets back, I'm ready to move.
I have motion.
Okay. Who had a motion?
We
You made a
got to
motion?
amend the agenda first, right?
We got to amend the agenda.
You can just move to amend the agenda and do it, but you're doing it as officers, you're doing it as directors at Henry First. So you just wait till Mr. Holmes gets back, you can do it in one motion.
Well, we got to,
I'd like to amend the agenda to revisit this. And President, I'd like to appoint Mr. Bonner. Vice President, Sherry, you okay with that? Secretary Stephanie, I'm not gonna ask you.
So we have a
And
motion.
Treasurer, Mr. Fred Letter, are you okay with that?
Wait until Mr. Holmes gets back
Will do.
and make that official, and then let's vote.
we have a quorum here to vote.
You can't vote.
Huh?
You can't vote.
What?
You done resigned.
Yeah, you resigned.
No,
No.
okay, is this the board of directors that you're
Yes.
talking
You're
about?
both good. The Board of Directors will do it, and the Board of Commissioners will.
Okay, what's the quorum for the board of directors?
Yeah, I think you can do it now.
I think you can do it.
You can do it now, let Mr. Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce, I've made a motion to amend the agenda to revisit this that we tabled and to appoint Mr.
Okay,
Lyndon
now,
Bonner,
You got a problem.
President.
Vote on the amendment of the agenda, so you need
Sherry,
to.
Vice President.
I'll walk you through it, patiently.
No, I'm saying he
Steph-
can't do this both and not let me vote but on one item.
We'll call
So
it. We'll vote
Stephanie?
on the one.
Fred.
Okay,
So let's do this. Let's first have the Board of Commissioners vote to authorize the Board of Directors to take this action. So, because you're doing.
we have to amend the agenda.
He made that motion.
Okay,
Yes.
I vote on the agenda.
That's right, he made the motion to amend the agenda.
Yes. I
Okay,
would like
so
to
that's-
amend the agenda.
The first thing we're gonna do is vote to amend the agenda. Okay, all in favor to amend the
Motion
agenda?
and second.
Huh?
Yeah,
It don't matter,
motion
you keeping up with that, okay? All in favor of the amendment of the agenda to add this item, raise your right hand. All opposed, raise your right hand. Now, from henceforth, now,
The
we have
remaining
to,
four will vote
wait a
on
minute
the
now.
substance of motion.
I'm saying, we got to reconvene with the board of directors of the incorporation. You
Well,
know
they're
that.
here, they're convened sufficiently.
Wait a minute now, I'm saying, they fixing to have an official meeting to do this, to make that motion.
You're all here, the Board of Directors.
I know, but you have to let the public know that they fixing to take this action as a board of directors for the Inc. and not the board of commissioners. That's
I
just,
think that's been made pretty clear.
Huh?
I don't think there's any doubt about what's about that. They don't,
Okay.
there's no formality required, there is a quorum of the Board of Directors. They can vote on that, on Mr. Prince's motion.
I think the public ought to know which group this is where it gets convoluted when you're dealing with the same people. And you have different responsibilities. And I'm not capable of voting on something as a commissioner, but I am capable of voting as a commissioner on another Inc. So now you got them through.
Yeah, well, they don't, there's nothing, what happens right now is the four members of the Board of Directors who also serve as commissioners are gonna vote on Mr. Prince's resolution.
Now, he
That's
made a
all.
motion for as.
He's
a-
already made, the motion's been made, the motion's been seconded, they can vote.
Okay.
You can vote.
All in favor, or do I do all in favor?
You can, it doesn't matter, any of you can call.
Okay, who's the president?
There's a motion, there's a second, all in favor of the motion.
All in favor of the
Of
motion.
the Board of Directors. There you go. Okay, that's done.
All opposed?
Okay, now, we are going back into the BOC session, is that correct?
Right, you never left, you're still, the Board of Commissioners is still convened, you're still acting as the Board of Commissioners. You're overthinking the formalities, you don't need to. So,
I think you've been a lawyer, this parliamentary procedure is, you have to, whether you're the same people, you're not doing the same thing.
what you've done is lawful, there's no legal issue with what you've done.
Ain't no doubt in my mind it's lawful, because you'll make it lawful. Okay, let's move down to, resolution to authorize the execution of agreement to acquire 162,746.09 square feet of land and 53,276.06 square feet of permanent easement in land lot 64, 7th District, Henry County, Georgia, and it's known as Campground Road Parcel 62.
Mr. Chairman, this is, I believe, the next to last parcel in the Campground Road project. This is parcel, what we refer to as parcel 62. It is a large acquisition, and the SPLOST staff and the property owner have negotiated an agreement that is, it's rather complicated. I've provided it to all of you. I'm going to give you a short summary of that agreement. We are going to acquire the right-of-way necessary for the Campground Road property for the total amount of $265,137.77. Of that money, the seller, the property owner, is going to reimburse the county approximately $70,000 to allow us to do some engineering and some preliminary construction work to accommodate the future development of his property. And the reason is the new road is going to cut this property in half. Before it was one contiguous piece, now it's two separate pieces. Property owner needs to be able to get utilities from one side of the road to the other and things like that. We're also the agreement also calls for the board to consider the abandonment of some old right-of-way and allow it to be transferred to the property owner, which you will do in a separate action. There's actually a separate statutory procedure for that. Most of this will be done in the design process. It's being done now. They're making some small modifications to the design. And it's the best way that SPLOST could come up with it to solve the practical problem of the impact it's going to have on this property. Otherwise, we'd probably be buying the guy's entire tract. It's a very large acquisition. We're taking, it's a good roughly 4 acres, and then another over an acre and a quarter of permanent easement. I know SPLOST has reviewed this with Mr. Prince. They've made some extensive engineering comments at SPLOST, and that's the proposal before you today, is to authorize that agreement, to authorize the chairman and myself to execute the documents and take all the steps necessary to get it closed out.
Somebody move in that direction? Have a motion?
Second.
Has second, District 5. Just for the record, since the last Board of Directors meeting did not end with an adjournment like it should have, parliamentary procedure, I want the record to show that I am going to vote on this issue as a BOC member and not a Board of Directors member. So any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand for a BOC meeting. All opposed, same sign. Thanks. I know you're laughing, Bruce, but I'm laughing too. I'm not laughing at you. Hey, I'm laughing at the process, and this is why it's so convoluted that we're the same people doing certain things that we can't do as elected officials. And I'm saying if we can't do it being elected up here, we ain't got no business doing it. That's just me. But anyway, let's move down to the other resolution. Resolution to authorize the acquisition of 5,804 square feet, 0.133 acres of land, and 5,997 square feet, or 0.13 acres. Permanent easement in land lot 182 of the 2nd District, Henry County, Georgia, by negotiated contract and or condemnation pertinent to provision of OCGA Section 32-3-4 through Section 32-3-19. It's common known as Frog Road Improvement Partial 30.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. And Parcel 30 on Frog Road is owned by an estate. At this point, it's been an unadministered estate, which creates tremendous title problems, so we can't really close on it. We're going to have to condemn the property to clear the title. SPLOST has reviewed that with the property owners, with the family members that we can identify, and I don't think there's any objection to the process, and we will actually do what we can to make it as easy as possible for the property owner. I don't believe there's any dispute as to value, so we're going to condemn it, acquire the right-of-way, and if there's a problem, we'll deal with it as it proceeds along.
Okay. Just the last parcel we need.
I believe it's the only parcel remaining on Frog Road. I had a little status. I have occasional status meetings with SPLOST over these right-of-ways, and this is the only one that he had any concern with. I thought there was one, and I don't remember the parcel number, but I think it was on a corner that we were working through, but I think that one's been resolved. And I just can't remember the parcel number or the property owner, but I think this finishes Frog Road.
Somebody move in that direction?
That being said, I do.
We have a motion, District 1, second District 5, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Upcoming meetings, I'm going to tell you, in about 11 hours, we're going to be back here for a public hearing for the millage rate, July the 20th at 9:30 a.m. and at 6:30 p.m. we'll return back for a public hearing meeting on the millage rate. Public hearing and adoption of the millage rate will be held July the 27th at 9:30 a.m. and 10 o'clock a.m. would be the adoption. And August the 2nd, 9 a.m. will be a regular meeting. August the 16th, 6:30 p.m. will be a regular meeting. Somebody move adjourned.
So moved.
Have a motion? Have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign.